the big one, the one I mentioned, first started mentioning back in 2020, and then again in 2022 at the Big Ten Media Days. I continue to advocate for that today, a system of revenue sharing with the student athletes. I'm aware and understand that when someone speaks out in defense of those without a voice, attempts are made to diminish the individual's character and credibility. As a former player and current coach, mentoring many of these student athletes, what I want to do is be a voice for the student athletes. I want them to be treated with the respect and the dignity that they deserve. What I don't understand is how the NCAA, television networks, conferences, universities, and coaches can continue to pull in millions, and in some cases billions, of dollars in revenue off the efforts of college student athletes across the country without providing enough opportunity to share in the ever-increasing revenues. When student athletes call it a game, the corporate types call it a business. When the student athletes call it a business, the corporate types call it a game. I am aware that Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick said, and I quote, "I think the decision-making lost its way in terms of the focus on the student athlete and what's primarily best for them. But we are where we are. We have to try to make it work." And we do. We have to try to make it work. We have to try to make it better. And right now, the current status quo is unacceptable and won't survive. In my opinion, when we capitalize on the talent, we should pay the talent for their contributions to the bottom line. The game of football has evolved since inception and dramatically started to change in the 1970s, where at that time, one game a week was televised. Today, every game during the 12-week regular season is broadcast. In the major conferences, every game is nationally televised to millions of households and sold out stadiums every Saturday. Why wouldn't we let the student athletes share in the success of their sport? And we all should be about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm calling for a system that is fair, equitable, and benefits all involved. Don't exclude the student athletes from the profits. In my opinion, you can't say you're about diversity, equity, and inclusion if you aren't willing to include the student athletes in revenue sharing. And it's just a short-sighted view of history to presume a system of revenue sharing would topple the current structure. Look at some of the companies who have implemented revenue sharing. Amazon, UPS, US Steel, to name a few. I was watching that movie Air. Dolores Jordan wouldn't let her son, Michael Jordan, sign an endorsement deal without Nike sharing in the revenue. And I think we can all agree that it worked out pretty well for Nike. As an NFL player, I was part of the change in NFL free agency rules and profit sharing with the talent. I lived it. I benefited from it. So did thousands and thousands of players that followed. I think we can all agree that the organizations and the NFL as a league and corporate entity have benefited greatly as well. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. What I'm hoping to accomplish today is sparking constructive conversation and timely action with and between the NCAA, conferences, coaches, universities, certainly a group representing the student athletes, as well as experts and legal minds who specialize in revenue sharing.